Today on the LA Food Podcast, I'm your host Lucas Servodio, and I'd like to thank Kendrick Lamar in advance for not suing us in light of our brand new theme song. Speaking of goats, Father Saul is with us today to talk about the LA Times 2024 Restaurant of the Year Baroo. We break down what the award means, why it's significant, and why we are so excited for our upcoming meal at this very special restaurant. We also talk about the LA Times Gold Award winner, the rise of non-alcoholic beer, and the sudden closure of a Rampart Village restaurant due to homelessness? That's all coming up next, but arguably even more exciting is the fact that we're joined in part 2 by none other than Eater's Mona Holmes. A James Beard Award nominee, Mona is one of the most intrepid food reporters in the city and possibly the country. We have a wide-ranging conversation on the state of LA food, the state of LA food media, and much, much more. I can't wait for you to listen to it, so without further ado, let's chow down. Dear listener, I made a deal with my wife. She let me start a food podcast and eat ungodly amounts of noodles, pizza, sandwiches, and more under 2 conditions. One is that I never utter her name. The other is that I find ways to be healthy outside of my work in food. Being the fantastic partner I am, I found a few ways to up my health game. I exercise almost every day, I try to sneak in salads for lunch whenever I can, and I only ever snack on healthy foods. The macadamia nut has become an essential part of my daily routine with the best omega-6 to 3 ratios in the nut game, 8 times better than pistachios and 20 times better than cashews. At houseofmacadamias.com, they've got a bunch of different macadamia products that you can enjoy, like savory and sweet snack packs and chocolate-covered snack bars. One of the problems with macadamias I've found is that they can be expensive, but I'm solving this for you, dear listener, because as of today, all you've got to do is head to houseofmacadamias.com and use code LAFOOD to get a 10% discount on a healthy snack that also happens to be delicious. So what are you waiting for? Head to www.houseofmacadamias.com/discount/LAFood and go nuts. Welcoming back to the LA Food Podcast, a man whose year of losing just will not come to an end. It's Father Saul. Father Saul, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm holding up. I just officially lost our Euros 2024 bet, which was my idea. And once again, in shocking and heartbreaking fashion. It can't be that I lose normally either. It has to be last second goals, weird ass bicycle kicks.
Yeah, for context, it's a 3-way bet. So really, he just had to beat one of me or our friend Sammy, and he has managed to do neither. Going into the final, he has a very slim chance of beating me and coming in second place. But it looks like he's going to have to pay for 2/3 of what is undoubtedly going to be a very expensive meal.
Let's not talk about it too much. I can't have Emily's like, how are you spending your money on these bets? And I'm like, I can't keep losing. It's not going to happen. And sure enough.
That's solid mathematical logic. Well, look, man, to bring the year of losing to an end, I'm going to start you off with a softball, okay?
Alrighty.
Should Biden drop out?
Oh, come on.
Actually, speaking of winning, it's a great week in Los Angeles because it is the week that the Los Angeles Times has announced its Restaurant of the Year, and the 2024 LA Times Restaurant of the Year is, drumroll please, Baroo, Kwang Oz Modern Korean Tasting Menu in the Arts District. Saul?
Baroo, man, I remember when Baroo opened back at its original location in like Thai Town, I think it was, and I wanted to check it out back then.
Yeah, East Hollywood.
Yeah. It's cool that they've relocated and I think expanded kind of their operation. Cool win. I'm a fan. I can't wait to check it out.
Yeah, no, I similarly am ashamed to admit that I have not been to the new iteration, but I have actually been to that iteration back in, I want to say, 2016? Yeah. Probably back when we were roommates. And yeah, to your point, it was this like little strip mall thing on the Santa Monica Boulevard stretch of East Hollywood. And it was just rice bowls, but very, very like thoughtfully assembled rice bowls with a high degree of fermentation and like attention to detail and whatnot. And the thing that sticks out to me about this is, every year, Bill Addison in his write up, yes, talks about the food, but he also sort of talks about the larger sort of like thematic reason why he's chosen to give this particular restaurant the award. In this particular article, he sums it up as follows. Begin quote. Creating menus that tap into a chef's narrative is endemic to LA, from taco street carts to omakase counters. But the synthesis of ideas in Baroo's cooking was empowering in a new way. Even if none of our next generation of talents ate at Oz Restaurant, I see a through line of self-determination among recent achievers that began as pandemic-era pop-ups. And then he mentions a few, including Kuya Lord, Quarter Sheets, Via's Taco, Ozzy Zom, and, critically, our friends over at Poltergeist. He closes it out by saying, taste the cooking at any of these places and you'll know something about the people who conceived the dishes. Their successes comes with a reminder, no life takes a straight line. Pretty powerful words, right, Saul?
I love that. I love that, man. It reminded me a little bit of our bear conversation. Not that we want to keep harping on that, but one of the observations we made about the bear was in this new season, they had kind of stripped away everything about the food that made it tied to the personalities and histories of the chefs in the restaurant. Versus the finale of season 2, where it was all tied directly to who they were and what they were experiencing. And I think it's cool to see that echoed in some way here, where what Bill is elevating is the kind of cooking that tells you something about the chefs, right? It tells you about where they're from and their history. It's also an observation we made about Poltergeist way back when we first ate it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like eating at Poltergeist, you are eating like it's a restaurant that could only exist in the context of LA with all the ideas and innovation that Diego was driving. And so I love that idea thematically. I don't know how Quarter Sheets or other places capture it in the same way, or Via's Tacos even.
Yeah.
But it's cool that he's drawing the line at least.
Yeah, some are clearer than others, right? Because one way I would summarize this is it's almost like the Slumdog Millionaire effect, where it's like
Huh.
it's like every single question that Dev Patel's character answers in Slumdog Millionaire is like
Right.
kind of in a contrived fashion, but in an Oscar-winning fashion,
Hey.
deeply related to a personal experience he's had in life. And that's also how I would sort of sum up a lot of the dishes at Poltergeist in a way. Like, for example, like I think the Thai Caesar salad is inspired by the fact that Diego and his father would always go eat Thai food, or that was one of their favorite things to do. Also, the lamb neck, critically, the Penang lamb neck is very much an ode to his time helping Ori Minash over at Bavel breaking down lamb necks and learning how to do that at that restaurant. So it's like every single dish has a through line to the chef's personal story. And from when it comes to Baroo's personal story, it's a really interesting one for the current climate that we're in, I think, because it's basically the way that Bill tells it is like he was running a really successful restaurant back in 2016, 2017. And like happens to a lot of restaurateurs, success begets burnout, right? Like they just kind of burn out after they are going too hard, having to like do everything themselves. They have to like wear so many hats when they're running a small restaurant, right? That he basically like went away for a while, studied under, I believe, some sort of monk in Korea, and came back with like a renewed sensibility that he's been applying to his new tasting menu. And I think that's really relevant to the kind of like intense circumstances that a lot of restaurateurs are experiencing today.
Really, I mean, I didn't know that background. Really interesting story. And yeah, we've touched on the burnout and the difficulty that restaurateurs are facing, both financially, but also creatively, and with all the pressures of the current moment. And it's really interesting to hear this story about how they dealt with it and came back renewed. I mean, I cannot wait to eat this food.
Which we are going to do because for keen listeners of this podcast, they'll know that the prize for winning Fantasy Top Chef is an LA Food Podcast funded meal for the winner at the LA Times Restaurant of the Year. So we have offered Jessie Evans of Jessie Eats the opportunity to go to Baroo without us, but she's been very magnanimous in saying that she'll bring us along. So we're all going to go together. That's pretty exciting, right?
Pretty exciting. She just wants to rub it in, I'm guessing. No, I'm just joking, Jessie. No, it's very cool of her for wanting to try it out with us, and I can't wait.
It's going to be awesome. Hey, let's talk about this award in general for a moment, because I think one thing that people think when this award drops is that it is an award for the best restaurant in LA, period. But as evidenced by the fact that the restaurant of the year is almost never number one on Bill's ranked 101 list. it's not really a best restaurant in LA award. What do you think the value of this award actually is?
Well, I suppose it's, I mean, it seems to straddle the line, right? I do think he's trying to identify one of the best restaurants. Of course, there's no objective measure of the very best restaurant. But to your point, it's not the restaurant Bill ranks number one. And I think it's to the very point we were just discussing, right? I think he's trying to identify a place that is excellent, right? That is among the standouts of the landscape, but also tells a story about the food in the city in a moment in time. And that's kind of what Bill seems to be drawing out with the thematic through line you just mentioned. I think that's a real like benefit or service of this award, right? That you're not just learning about, hey, this is a great place to eat, but this is a great place to eat that also tells you something about LA right now. And I think that's a worthy way of kind of considering this award.
Yeah, I think so too. I also think that this award, more so than the 101, tries to take into account some history too. Like in the 101 in the upfront, Bill Addison is always saying like, this is a mosaic of what it's like to eat in Los Angeles in this particular year. But if you look at like last year's award, right, you had Holbox who won, and they'd been around for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
You had Anajac the year before, which was a reimagined version of like a 30-year-old, actually a 40-year-old restaurant. I think they just had their 40th birthday, actually. Happy birthday to Anajac. And now you have Baroo, which, yes, is relatively new in its new iteration, but has also been around for several years as a concept. I think that this is also like, this award is meant to tell us more, like it's meant to recognize not just a restaurant that is doing something awesome today, but that has been on a journey that is somehow like reflective of our city's journey, culinary journey as well.
Yeah.
And so like last year, the Holbox one was very much about like pivoting during the pandemic, I want to say. I think Bill spent a lot of time emphasizing how the omakase menu that Chef Gilberto Cetina developed at Holbox was very much something that he kind of zeroed in and honed in on during the pandemic. And it was this beautiful way to like bring people back together after having been isolated for so long. And then this year, I think it's deeply tied to like, yes, a chef that has navigated the various challenges that restaurants are really feeling today and that they've been feeling for the past couple of years. It's a pretty lofty award when you put it like that.
No, it absolutely is. And I appreciate the observation that the restaurant that's selected typically has a history in the city, right? A story of its existence in LA as it's identified. I do wonder if you ever get Bill on this podcast, I wonder if his approach to
long shot,
yeah. I wonder if his approach to choosing the restaurant of the year has changed, right? I wonder if he's learned lessons since coming in for Jay Gold about what he seeks to identify. And I wonder if this is part of his calculus increasingly over time, or if it was always sort of inherent to the way he went about it.
Would be interesting to know. Bill, the LA Food Podcast is your home if and when you should ever choose to brave it. Look, some people like to criticize this award because it does come coupled, I want to say, with some sort of events where the chef cooks and they sell tickets and whatnot. Some view it as just like a naked money grab for the Times, and they'd rather Bill just spend his time going around town and reviewing restaurants, which some people say he doesn't do enough of. What do you say to those people?
I didn't realize that was a criticism of Bill. I think that's silly. I mean, look, we've talked about this before in the past, but yeah, there is a relationship between reviewing the food, like a restaurant, right, and also sort of bolstering the brand and recognition of the outlet itself, right? There's like a kind of symbiosis there that I think is sort of natural. I don't really give this any weight.
I think it's bullshit too. It's like look, it's the state of the media. You have to get creative in making some dollars, and if that means also like recognizing some restaurants with awards, doesn't mean that the award is any less meaningful, right? So I don't think that that's what this is about.
No, yeah, and it makes it makes perfect sense that they would celebrate the winner of the award in some way. I mean, I don't know. I don't see any issues here.
Well, their other award is the Gold Award, which is more of kind of like a legacy award. It's a little reminiscent of the Hall of Fame, which you know how I feel about. But Mariscos Jalisco won the Gold Award, and Lori Ochoa authored that write-up. Now, to quote what this award is supposed to be given for, it is for quote, restaurants that are, quote unquote, honoring culinary excellence and expanding the notion of what Southern California cooking might be.
Right.
Past winners include restaurants like Galagetza, Meals by Gannett, Parks Barbecue. It is basically, to your point that you put in our show notes, a greatest hits of the restaurants Jonathan Gold elevated.
There's a I think a tension between the stated purpose of the award and how it's actually distributed. Right now, it seems to be like an in memoriam award for Jay Gold, and I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
It like these are legacy restaurants that it's almost celebrating the places that Jonathan identified. The way his review and exploration of places like Meals by Jeanette and Marisco Salisco kind of changed the way people thought about food in LA. So I mean, maybe this will evolve into more of a forward-looking award. I mean, I could see like a Poltergeist winning this award. Not to not to plug our favorite as we always do.
Well, for that, Poltergeist would have to live on for a very long time, and I'm not sure that that's what that restaurant is designed to do.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I won't speak for Diego's goals, but sure. But if the award is whatever you just said, food that's like defining, pushing the landscape of what LA food can be. To me, even if it doesn't live forever, like a place like a Poltergeist or plenty of other options here, even like a Baroo or Quaylord would be like places that capture that dynamic.
Yeah.
I will say to your point about the Hall of Fame. So I'm glad they do this. It's a cool thing. But it's weird to have like 4 different things. It's weird to have like a 101 list with a number 1 and a restaurant of the year and a gold winner and also a Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I'm super down for Hall of Fame, as you know, but not every gold winner is in the Hall of Fame. I went back and checked.
No way.
Yeah. I went through, and they're not necessarily. Cassia was a gold award winner a few years back, and it's not in the Hall of Fame. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel pretty confident that that's the case. And so it would almost make more sense to me if they kind of combined the Hall of Fame and the Gold Award, right? Like and like made it like a more of a sort of integrated thing, just so. Like, I mean, this doesn't matter, but from like a pure, I guess, branding and consistency perspective, people know what they are learning about when they see Restaurant of the Year versus Gold Award versus Hall of Fame versus 101 list.
Yeah, like right now, you could probably predict the future Gold Award recipients if you just watch that like Jonathan Gold documentary that came out in like 2016.
Right.
And like which restaurants that were mentioned in that documentary have not yet won the Gold Award. If there were betting odds for those, I would probably be putting my money on those. I think what this is trying to be, and what it should be, in my opinion, is like a lifetime achievement award.
Sure.
These are restaurants that have been doing it for a while, who have been pioneers in some way, shape, or form. And that's how it's framed in the write-up. Like Lori Ochoa basically credits Mariscos Jalisco with being a bridge between LA taco culture and the food truck culture that really blew up with Kogi in like 2008 and 2009. And that's like one hell of a lifetime achievement for Mariscos Jalisco, you know?
Yeah.
There's plenty of restaurants and restaurateurs out there who would qualify for such an award.
Yeah, that's right. And again, like a Hall of Fame is also a lifetime achievement award. Again, I would just say like I wonder like they should tie them together maybe a little bit. They don't have to. Again, it doesn't matter. But like if I am in my strictest brain trying to figure out what we are celebrating and who we're identifying, I go a gold award is a Hall of Fame member of the LA food landscape with the additional sort of tweak that it's not just like a Pink's. It's like I mean, maybe Pink's could be a gold award winner. I don't know. But like it's something that speaks more to a way that's entirely unique to LA that pushes the envelope in LA and has done so, like your Gulligetzas and so on and so forth. And then the Restaurant of the Year is like a moment in time award, right? Like, and same with the 101.
Well, I think, you say it doesn't matter. And to some extent, it doesn't matter. It's awesome for these restaurants either way. But I do think like the clearer you get on it, also like the more value the award in and of itself gets, right?
The more meaningful it becomes. Yeah, you need that clarity. But yeah, look, it's really, I'm sure it's a super cool and meaningful recognition. I do wonder if and when they will. I mean, I think they've branched out a little bit from old J Gold reviewed restaurants in the past with Gold Awards. Like if you go back like a couple years, but it seems like for the award to truly have like this is a Gold Award winner, it's going to be when they kind of expand beyond J Gold's view of the city to what a new view looks like with his kind of perspective in mind to the best of the LA Times ability to capture it.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about is like, what are the restaurants that Jonathan Gold in this day and age would hold in high regard?
Right.
I do think like there's certainly overlap between restaurants that like Bill Addison holds in high regard and like that people like Bill Esparza hold in high regard and ones that like Jonathan Gold himself would hold in high regard as well. But I think there will be value someday in just like, we can do more than just the ones that he's reviewed in the past, and it still
Yeah.
has that meaning. Now, talking about the food for a moment, are you a Marisco Salisco fan? Because I know that is a place that even you have been.
Oh, of course I am, man. We went back recently with Emily, and also I remember when I was moving out of LA back in 2017, you took me there especially. It's memorialized on your Instagram. The must eat before Saul leaves LA, and yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, back when it was still cool to like post like static pictures to your grid. I had a picture of like Saul's from behind showing off his glorious caboose
Mm,
in front of
mm.
Marisco Salisco. I think it said something like "another baby saved" or something. A post that like I would never do today. It's kind of embarrassing that I even posted that.
I think it's lovely. I don't know what I'm not up on Instagram culture though, but next it would be a TikTok in this day and age. I suppose you'd give me a filter and and some background music.
Dude, we have to absolutely build your social media presence, man. It's really holding us back.
Oh, do we though?
Yeah.
Do we though? I
We could
beg to
do
differ.
AMAs with you, like it would be amazing. Look, the other thing that I found interesting in Laurie Ochoa's write up is actually she quoted Jonathan Gold, and he said that in some circles, admitting that you live in Los Angeles but haven't visited Marisco Salisco is like confessing that you've never been to Dodger Stadium, driven through the 4-level freeway interchange, or eaten a corn dog on Muscle Beach. Have you ever eaten a corn dog on Muscle Beach, Saul?
I have not. This feels like a game of what does not belong, like two truths and a lie for what it means to live in LA. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not West Side fluent. I don't think I will ever eat a corn dog at Muscle Beach. Seems to be like against the ethos of Muscle Beach, just be eating a corn dog while jack dudes work out. But
Yeah.
hey, if J Gold said it, it's the Bible.
It's actually one of probably the most like provocative things you can do is like just go to Muscle Beach and just like stare bodybuilders in the eye while you chow down on a corn dog. Maybe next time you're here, we should just do that.
Why not? Hey, let's see what it's all about.
Look, congratulations to Baroo and to Marisco Salisco on the awards. We're very, very happy for you guys. I can't wait to come to Baroo, and I'll definitely be making my annual pilgrimage to Marisco Salisco sooner or later. But speaking of tacos, I wanted to quickly talk to you about Go-Go's Tacos, which is on Silver Lake Boulevard, sort of as it's becoming Beverly Boulevard. And they just closed in a June 27th Instagram post. Owner Brittany Valles, who's also the owner of Gorilla Tacos downtown, cited the nearby homeless encampment as the reason for closure. She writes, "After almost 3 years at the Buzzy Corner, we are closing our retail operations. Unfortunately, the increasing safety issues with the transient community," her words, not mine, "in the area have made it impossible for us to keep our staff safe." This is a first, as far as I can remember, in terms of restaurants closing, citing such a reason. We don't need to get into a big conversation about homelessness in LA, but what sticks out to you about this particular development?
To the point you're making, this is the first I can remember a restaurant citing it as a reason for closure. Though I'm guessing it's not. Maybe we just haven't seen it before. I can imagine the safety concerns are real, but yeah, this is the intersection of a bunch of different issues, and it's sad to see. And again, don't super want to go down the rabbit hole today of homelessness in LA. I know there's another ballot initiative I think on for consideration to kind of boost the work the county is doing to address the issue, but I mean, sad to see, and I suppose notable that they explicitly named it. Again, I'm guessing it's not the first.
I'm also guessing it's not the only reason, right? Like for this restaurant closing.
Right, yeah.
It sounds to me like it's very possible that they maybe weren't having the business results either, and maybe they blame their location, their like whatever slightly quote unquote undesirable location as a reason for that. But certainly a like very interesting and something that I haven't heard before. Mona Holmes, who's actually the guest on the pod today, has the article about it in Eater, and I highly recommend going to read it. We'll be posting it in our LA Food Stack, our Substack newsletter. Saul, have you been following our Substack?
Absolutely, man. I fucking love it. Great Substack. Well worth the subscription.
It's free. It's a free subscription too. But yeah, I do think it's something that we should maybe revisit at some point, maybe with like a restaurateur, because I definitely have heard like safety concerns being a consideration, but like a reason for closure, that's definitely a first.
I mean, at some level, it's unambiguous, right? If people feel unsafe, if staff feel unsafe, or customers feel unsafe with the presence of homelessness or nearby, that to me is like unambiguous in terms of what it is, what people are experiencing. The real conversation is, what are the policies and solutions that the city and county are able to put forth to get people housed safely, and
Yeah.
productively. But again, that's a deeper conversation, and I suppose not for today.
Yeah. Although, you know what it does remind me of? It reminds me of a conversation that we had like episode 2 of this podcast with
Right.
Casa Vega's Christy Vega. She's like very involved in city politics and in advocating for businesses. And she was basically talking about how like interconnected all of these issues are, like that they would have situations where on their patio, some patrons would sometimes feel unsafe because of like, I don't know, folks on the street just being loud or walking by or even like interacting. And that's something that she had been trying to advocate at the city for. Again, I think it's just a reminder of how like interconnected all of these policy issues are and how they impact like local businesses in really real ways. But yeah, to your point, this is not exactly a policy podcast, not yet at least. And I will say though, in Mona's article, she links to an article from the LA Public Press that goes really in depth in terms of what Karen Bass has been doing about this issue and the progress so far. And I got to say, LA Public Press, friend of the pod, Virali Thave, I believe, is involved with them. And it's a really impressive publication. Have you heard of them?
I actually haven't. Good. I mean, speaking of our local news conversation, or reminding me of our local news convo, I will absolutely check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Highly recommend. Look, speaking of interesting articles, Jordan Michelman has an article in Taste, which is one of our favorite publications to discuss, about the exciting developments in non-alcoholic beer. The article is titled, "It's Cool to Care About NA Beer." Saul, have you dabbled in NA beer?
Nah. I don't know why I would. Well, I mean, just from the sense of, if you're not going to be drinking alcohol, I don't know like why you have to pretend to be drinking beer. It's the same exact thing with the vegan conversation we had. If you're vegan, that's totally cool. Why I don't see the need for eating fake meat or like plant. I mean, plant-based meat is good. I don't want to don't want to step over myself. Plant-based meat is, I think, a good development and for the environment and all that. But if I'm vegan, I'm not going to try and like bend over backwards to eat things that I can't eat, just like and find like bad replacements. Just eat vegetables. Vegetables are good for you, and nuts, and get your food that way. Similar vibe with non-alcoholic beer, though. I think there's some interesting observations in this article. And then, to be clear, I'm being somewhat facetious. It's certainly a trend. I've seen athletic beer company like at Whole Foods and stuff like that. It seems to certainly be a rising trend.
Yeah, Dave Chang is all over that.
Yeah, oh yeah, I didn't know that actually. If he's in, I'm in, baby. Let's fucking do it.
You're buying a stake in the company,
right? Yeah, yeah. But no, I mean, what I thought was most interesting about the article was the observation that like it's a growing trend, but not like a super Instagrammy one, which feels true to my experience on social media. It's not like smash burgers like popping off, or birria tacos, right? It's not like an Instagrammy like lifestyle brand, but it's still growing quietly and significantly. I mean, look, it's I think a good trend, I suppose, for people to have options. For me personally, I'm either drinking or I'm not, buddy.
Yeah, no, totally. I think the interesting thing for me is where they're talking about the process of developing these new strains, if you will, of non-alcoholic beers. Basically, how like all the old shit, like O'Doul's and St. Pauli Girl, they were all just foul. They tasted like boiled down, almost like rubbery because of the process. But they basically, Athletic Brewing and companies like it, have developed a process where the beer tastes good, right? And the only thing I can think of where it would be like an appealing option is where you just really want that taste of beer. And I know what you're saying. Like, it's like, for me, definitely part of the appeal is that I'm also going to get a little bit of a buzz on when I'm having a beer. But there is something indescribable about the flavor combination of certain foods with beer. Dude, on a Friday night, a pizza with a cold ice, like an ice cold beer. If you can't have alcohol, I can definitely see like missing that feeling. The problem is, and I've heard some people in recovery express this, is the substitutes are getting too damn close.
Right.
You know?
Playing with fire, man.
Yeah. It's like, why would I? And actually, they're getting so good that I think some of the spirits too not only taste like the real stuff, but they also have ingredients in them that feel like there's alcohol in it. Like it gives you
Right.
like a little burning sensation at some point. And they're like, dude, if I wanted to play with fire, I would just
Go get burned, baby. No, I don't know. I mean, like, there's also that stuff. I think this is not the purview of the article, but like, I've seen like nootropics. This is more of like an Instagram-y thing where it's like, oh, stuff that makes you feel like less inhibited, but it's not alcohol, but it's like some weird brain chemical. I've not tried it. I'm not sure how. It seems like very placebo-y, but I have no basis scientifically on which to stake it. It seems like people are trying to find ways to participate in drinking culture without imbibing alcohol, which, yeah, all fair game.
Yeah, kava is another one of those things. Have you heard of kava with a K?
Right. Yeah, I have.
Yeah, there's like a couple. Well, there's one kava bar that opened here in Los Angeles, Kava Hana, and the whole premise too is like, hey, if you want to go have a social drinking experience that isn't alcoholic, but you still feel something off of it, you
Right.
can go. You can go do this. So, yeah, it's interesting. I do think there's a market for it though, because like so far we've seen so many different like non-alcoholic bars open. We've seen non-alcoholic bottle shops and whatnot. I guess time will tell if they're like financially viable. But I don't know, man. At first, I was very quick to poo-poo all this stuff, but I'm starting to think there may be something here.
I think there's a general trend happening. At least I've seen like think pieces on this about kind of folks stepping away from alcohol, right? Like kind of like people realizing the negative impacts of it and stuff. And that's like, to be clear, that's like all good, right? I mean, we don't. It's good to not need alcohol to socialize, and it's surely a good thing to have alternatives for folks who don't want to partake. But my like yeah, like facetious answer is, if you're gonna drink, just drink, and if you're not gonna drink, have water. Water is fucking great, guys.
Although, you know what it does remind me of too? There was another great article, which I'm actually going to put in LA Food Stack, but I didn't include in our agenda. And it was a New York Times Magazine article about food documentaries. And it was basically saying about how like all these food documentaries are trying to like spoon feed the fact to us that eating meat is bad and eating vegetables is good, right? They're all done in a really patronizing way, but also not in a very like effective way either. Like the best way to get someone to like ditch meat is not to just be like, this is bad for you. It's also to make the alternative vegetables actually sound good and something desirable that you want to eat. Not to mention all the socioeconomic factors that come into like being forced to choose like processed foods with meat
Right.
and fast food and things like that. Right. But I do think that there's something to what you're saying. It's like maybe there's a way to make just like good drinks. You know, maybe you could just drink something good that isn't trying to mimic alcohol, but you're just making like a sick non-alcoholic drink. And I do think that there's a big movement too with mixologists of making just like really, really tasty non-alcoholic cocktails that aren't even trying to mimic like the flavor profile of a drink. It's just like a really good combination. That's just something you might want as a refresher.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great point in terms of, is the goal to mimic the lifestyle that you're abstaining from, or to create a new appealing lifestyle, or to realize all the benefits of the lifestyle that abstains from whatever meat or alcohol or whatever it could be. I think I've actually stumbled upon some excellent cookbooks this year, which are vegetable centric. One's called, my favorite is 6 Seasons, and it's really just about how you can make the most of like seasonal eating of like vegetables, identifying what's freshest, and has like really awesome ideas for how to use vegetables across the year. And that like just gets me excited to eat vegetables more so than like Meatless Monday or whatever it may be. I think it's probably all good, but I appreciate the perspective that I think what the fundamental driver here should be like, what's the appeal of a lifestyle with like that abstains from certain things versus how can you most easily mimic a lifestyle that pretends like these things are still in your life.
I'm torn on it, man, because honestly, I didn't drink for a month earlier this year. And I went out to a bar in like, I forget. It was actually, we went to Thai Taco Tuesday and then went to the bar across the street. I want to say it's called Mr. Furley's or something. And I was with our good friends, Abdo and Sharif. I wasn't drinking and they were, and I didn't want to feel left out. So I had Heineken Zero or whatever it's called. And it did the job. Like, it was great.
Yeah.
Like, it tasted good. It actually tasted like Heineken Light. I felt like I had something in my hand to hold,
Yeah.
and like I didn't feel like I was being antisocial or like a vibe kill or anything. And I enjoyed drinking it because I genuinely like the taste of beer. So I feel like I never in a million years thought I would come on board with like non-alcoholic beer, but I'm like low key. I think I'm curious.
I think that's cool, man. I good. By the way, the taste coming through yet again with an interesting, timely perspective. Shout out them. I think they're going to be a regular on our rundown here. And yeah, I think. I mean, I don't know if I will ever convert to this, but all power to those who do.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, speaking of the New York Times, because I mentioned a New York Times article in passing. Sorry, not the best segue I've ever done. They had a fun look, what I thought was a fun look, at what people's grocery shopping habits say about them. I'll also put this in the LA Food Stack this week. Not going to run down what they cover in the article, but I did think it was an interesting way at looking at a person. And I actually wanted to flip this magnifying glass on you, Father Saul. Are you game?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, I've got a few questions for you, okay? Let's see what we can glean from you. How often do you go to the grocery store in a month?
So I typically go at least once a week, I'd say, if I'm not traveling, unless I'm going to do like a special meal, right? Like a grilla taco recipe, right? In which I have to go out and do some specialty grocery shopping. But I have a very like regular grocery list weekly. I love going to the grocery store, man. It's one of my favorite rituals.
Are you going to a grocery store or a shoppy shop?
I'm going to a grocery. I got a Whole Foods on the corner. It's typically there, or Market Time Foods here in Seattle. Great option. It's one of my, like, literally Emily's like, you like, I'm like running between work, doing errands, and she's like, I can go to the grocery store, and it's like, no, I want to go to the grocery store. It's like my happy place. I love being there.
I love that. I do love that. It's like feeling a connection to your food. But like, so you're telling me that you go like once a week, and when you're going once a week, are you doing shopping for the entire week with like recipes in mind that you're going to make throughout the week?
Yeah. So it'll be basically, yes, get like ingredients, like, fruit for the week, any snacks for the week, like nuts or dark chocolate or something, refresh anything that we've run low on. And then typically, and I need to diversify this, like my weekly meal, which I actually should probably cook today, is keema, right? It's my favorite. I make a keema and the dal that'll last for like 4 days, and I get the ingredients for those things. And then, like I said, if there's like if we're feeling fish one night, right, I'll just swing by the grocery store a second time on the way home from work and grab like some fish and lemon or whatever. No, it's the best going to the grocery store. And I actually really like this article. I recommend folks read it, because it's a cool, like, quiet way to get to know someone, like a way you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
To like get to know someone's lifestyle is checking out their grocery receipt.
It's cool too, because it's like all across the country, and you kind of get to see like how people in flyover states live too,
I suppose so. Yeah, not so different from us, it turns out.
Not so, like, we all end up buying like way more cheese than we think we buy, which is one of the big takeaways from this article.
True for me too.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to the grocery store like probably like 20 times a month, bro. Like, literally.
Really?
Yeah, because we used to be like weekly shoppers where we're planning ahead what we're going to buy for the entire week, and we knew what we were going to have for dinner each night. But that was like very much during the pandemic when we had to do that, because you like
right.
didn't have as much access to groceries. I think one of our ways to like re-enjoy our freedom has been like, yo, we can decide what we're having for dinner today,
No, I love that. Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's like aspirational for me, where I want to do, like, I think the goal, I mean, look, I don't know how cost efficient this is necessarily. Always getting your groceries and cooking your own food is more cost efficient than the alternative of like ordering or takeout or whatever.
Not always.
You don't think so? I don't know what you guys are eating.
Well, no, but for example, if you're making like, so my wife, as you know from our First Light Farm ad, has recently started eating meat. And basically, like, it's expensive if we're buying like, ribeye steaks to cook. If I were to buy like Dan noodles from down the street in Joy, like, that would be far more cost effective. But the flip side to that is like you're just getting straight up carbs there, whereas you're getting a more sort of like rounded meal at home. Yeah, I think
that's right.
Pound for pound, if you're buying the same, pound for pound, if you're buying the same things, it's going to be cheaper at home.
Yes, that's basically what I mean. And yeah, I love the idea of having like the one big replenishing, restocking grocery trip on like a Sunday or something, but then like to like swinging by each evening, maybe just like I said, grabbing some parsley, grabbing some lemon, maybe like a protein for dinner that night, and then like having the one big meal or whatever you made for the week there. for lunch or whatever it is, and then having like nice dinners. I like that's the vibe I want. And I got a trick for you, man. Skirt steak. Skirt steak's the way to go. Get a pound of skirt steak. Lasts 5 days in the fridge. You can cut little pieces off, cook it up real quick. It's the fucking jam.
That's what I made last night, actually. I made a sick New York Times recipe. New York Times is like my go-to for a recipe these days because I paid like $4.99 a month. So like I feel like I got to utilize it.
Yeah.
And they have this like almost like Vietnamese steak recipe with like flank steak, I want to say, not skirt steak. And you marinate it in like fish sauce, lime juice, grated garlic, grated jalapeno, and a few other things. Dude, it was incredible. My wife said it was one of the best things she's eaten all year, at home or restaurant.
Wow, look at you, man. I like, yeah, it's like also cooking at home is just like, this is actually tied into our what are they called? Goals for the year? What are they called? New Year's resolutions, right? For me, cooking at home, yeah.
You know it's going well when you can't even remember what they're called.
I will. We were gonna maybe do a check-in halfway through the year. It hasn't gone quite as smoothly as I planned, but it's for the most part smoother than it was last year in terms of cooking at home and not ordering in. I should also shout out Emily because what I'll do is I mentioned my keema that I do on a weekly basis. She's also gotten really into soups and stews. So when I do my weekly big run, I'll grab her a bunch of ingredients for a stew. We got that like frozen in the fridge, eaten for a couple of days for dinner. It's the life, man. I love a grocery store run.
Okay, a few more questions just to learn about you through your grocery habits. Okay, what's your most purchased item?
I mean, look, the boring answer is probably some like aromatic vegetable like garlic or onions. But if it's going to be more interesting, look, like I said, keema's in the rotation, man. Like ground beef. Ground beef is steady because I got to make that. Again, I got to branch out from just keema, but it's such a go-to.
What are you working with? 80-20 organic or what?
85-15, baby. You got to have a little bit of fat in there. Got to have a little fat in there to like let it all cook down. But yeah, no, that's the way to go.
85-15 I feel like is conservative.
I suppose so. Like it's not too lean, but not overly fatty. It's the sweet spot.
Yeah, it's moderate Democrat, I would say.
That's right. Yeah, centrist Democrat. Yeah, I suppose it is. But hey, hits all the same. It's fucking good.
Yeah, hits all the same. What is your latest impulse buy?
Oh, you know what it is? Because I've been again, trying to be more like strict with our food and like, generally healthy fruits and nuts and veggies. Emily made the point. She's like, look, we got to get some snacks in here. You can't just be like, we're going to get like cravings and all that. So it's been beef jerky, beef jerky, bison jerky, salmon. Like I'm trying all the different jerky brands at Whole Foods and trying to figure out the one I like the best. So I have that like quick snack. It's definitely the one thing that when I'm like hungry at the grocery store and I swing by the jerky, it's like there's like 3 different bags going in the cart. Yeah, that's
also like a pretty expensive impulse buy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even I don't even want to know. And also, I don't like a lot of them. I found that I like janky like Jack Link's beef jerky is like my favorite, and all these like super high end Whole Foods ones just aren't the same. They're like almost too moist and too perfect, and I just want get a dry chewy jerky. So yeah, that certainly when it comes to impulse buys, those add up.
Have you ever had the like fried salmon skin that's like seasoned?
No, I don't think I have. I mean, I've watched a lot of cooking videos about how to make great salmon skin, and it looks awesome. Salmon jerky is like actually my favorite. It's really good, but then
Really?
it's not the skin. It's typically like the actual meat of the salmon. Yeah, salmon jerky, quote unquote, as in salmon skin, is apparently the bomb.
Salmon skin, I had it several years ago. They were doing like almost like a pop-up at Century City Mall. And I tried it and remember thinking, this is absolutely delicious. And then didn't hear about it for a while. But I was at Costco yesterday and they were giving out free samples. And I had it again for the first time in years. And I was like, oh my God, this slaps.
Yeah.
It's such a good snack. Did I purchase it? Absolutely not. But I'm not a big snacker. But if I were a snacker, that would be a go-to. I think it's got not great protein because it's just the skin, probably very high fat content, but absolutely delicious.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
My latest impulse buy was a buy one, get one 50% off pints of Haagen-Dazs at CVS last night.
Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen to the best of us. A number one rule for going to the grocery store is trying not to go hungry, because if you go hungry, you're gonna be ending up with like ice cream. The other thing that I'll get, this is not the most recent buy, but like if I go hungry, cheese and crackers, it's fucking happening. And like some charcuterie, right?
Dude, well, one of my favorite meals that we do sometimes, and we haven't done it in a while, is making a tin fish board, which I actually remember in one of our first episodes, we tried a segment that was like overrated, underrated or something.
I miss it.
And I asked you tin fish, and I think you said overrated.
No, underrated. I said it was having a moment. I can't remember exactly, but it was essentially the point was tin fish is for sure having a moment. Again, pricey, man, but
Yeah.
a classy tin fish board, yeah, you feel like a king.
Feel like a king. Okay, I was gonna try to synthesize what this like grocery pattern, buying pattern says about you, but I'm not really sure. I feel like it tells us that you're actually more prepared than I give you credit for. It tells us that like you're bougie. You're bougie as fuck because of where you're shopping.
Little bit,
Your impulse buys are also bougie.
little bit.
You're a bit of a creature of habit because you have your go-tos.
That's the big one.
And I think that the most critical thing it tells us, my friend, is that you're trying. You're trying.
I was literally going to joke. What it tells you is that I'm trying my best, because the worst feeling in the world, as I said during our New Year's resolution, is to do a beautiful grocery shopping run, cook up your stuff, and then come home late from work on a Tuesday and be like, fuck it, DoorDash. Let's go. And that's the weakness. But from my grocery list, you can see trying my best.
Yeah. Hey, I'm proud of you, bro. I really am. Speaking of not being proud of you, though, I think we're ready for Shitty Yelp review of the week. Do you have one? I certainly do.
I can't wait to hear yours. Mine is I asked Emily what this should be today, and she like landed it right away, which is, look, this is not terrible behavior, but it is a little selfish. As you know, I love the show New Girl. And as you also know, I don't know if the listeners do, I like myself a reaction video. Emily neither enjoys reaction videos nor New Girl. And yet I have, every time that we like don't have something to watch, or she's like working, like doing her law stuff in bed and I'm done with work, I'm like, toss on some New Girl. I've made her watch so many episodes of New Girl in the past. She's like seen the whole show at least once through, most of it twice. And now my favorite reaction channel is reacting to New Girl. So guess what Emily gets to deal with?
Oh my God.
Me reaction video, and me just like laughing at the same jokes we've heard at least 3 times before, and then also the reaction piece of it, which is only embarrassing. And she just is like along, she's like, it's happening. She has like just completely resigned, and I'm like so stoked. And by the way, every time she does break and laugh at something in the show, I feel like the best. It's like
so I would get that. It's a win. Now, do you laugh at what the reaction video people are saying in reaction?
Yeah. It's a both and. I'm laughing at the show. The best though is when you're watching a reaction to New Girl, like a show that I love, and the reactors are saying some like either observing some funny shit. These guys, I'm not gonna go deep on the actual reactor channel, but there's like a husband and wife couple, and the husband's he's a little loopy. He's like not fully with it. And every so often he'll say something about what's happening in the show that's just fucking hilarious. I'm going deep now. In the micro penis episode of New Girl, where where Zooey Deschanel's character dates a dude with a micro penis, at the end, the dude, deadly serious, is like, look, I don't know if micro penises are a real thing, but if they are, guys, we got to get together and help these people. And I was dying. He was so somber, like just like the dudes in the show, concerned about men with micro penises, who we don't judge and fully accept on this podcast. If you're listening,
I assume that's half of our listeners. Listen, I don't think this is a too low of a star thing. I think this is more of a cry for help than anything. So I feel bad giving you less than like 3 stars for this. Honestly, I just think it's like 3 stars for you, 8 stars for Emily. Like this is great partnership from her end, and the fact that she even like laughs sometimes is just you found the person. You found your person.
She's a real trooper, and those few moments when she laughs, I just hold on to forever. They keep me warm.
Yeah, on a dark day in Seattle when you have no hope, you think of those moments. All right, I'll tell you mine. Mine isn't actually so much a partnership as it is just a character flaw of mine, which I'm always happy to share. So, I play pickup soccer at Saturday's pickup here in East LA. Right, it's twice a week in the mornings, and it's a first come first serve deal. It's like 7v7, and there's usually like 4 teams that get created. As the moment that the bibs get there, it's like everybody's just picking up a bib, and you just like get on a team, right? I'm wearing a neon yellow jersey last July, like on July 4th, a few days ago, right? Or like last week. And the neon yellow jersey, like bibs are going around, right? and this guy's giving them out. So I just like go up to him like, hey man, probably makes sense for me to be on this team, right? And he's like, I'm waiting for David. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that's not how this works. Like it's literally first come, first serve. Turns out he was trying to create a super team of like his homies, right? And so what he did is he created a super teams. And because I dilly-dallied, okay, and I didn't get on his team, I ended up with the fucking Bad News Bears, bro. Like literally a team that I don't know that any of them had ever played soccer before in their lives. I think they had just rocked up on July 4th to have a good time. But I'm talking like could not put a pass together, nothing, right? We end up playing the neon yellow team, okay? And for me, this is a revenge game, right? Because are you familiar with one of my favorite podcasters, Van Lathan?
Yeah, of course.
So he has this whole saying, right? And it's basically when he's being spited, he's not going to stand for it. And he says, fuck me. No, fuck you.
Okay.
And that is what I did. I was like, okay.
Hey.
I was like, you guys aren't going to have me on your team and you put me with the Bad News Bears. Here's what we're going to do. 7v7 pickup soccer. We're going to park the bus. We are just going to park the bus in front of the goal, defend. And what happens after 7 minutes if no team has won is you go to rock, paper, scissors, right? So we just park the bus for 7 minutes. Every time we get the ball, I just lump it forward as far as I can to absolutely nobody. We defend our asses off. 7 minutes go by. It's 0-0. Game ends. We go to rock, paper, scissors. We win.
Wow.
Best day of my life. It was just like, it wasn't even like, it was just like the sheer pettiness inside me just made it like the best day of my life. It was just like, it shouldn't have been as big a deal to me as it was. And I think this says something negative about my character.
Okay, this seemed like a long way about to do a humble brag. I will say, there's like, look, you're just being competitive. It's not a character flaw. You were disrespected and responded in kind. My favorite part of the story is that they were creating a super team and they saw you and they were like, yeah, not this guy. he's not super team material. That I love.
Yeah, fair enough.
Otherwise, I'm proud of you, man. I'm happy for you. I really don't think this is a bad Yelp review. This is just a story of victory from my perspective.
I don't know, man. I think maybe the bad Yelp review part comes into where I told my wife about this story nonstop for like 3 days.
This is where we're going. Yeah.
And I said the line, "Fuck me, no, fuck you." I said it in repeat. I would like look at myself in the mirror and just repeat that, thinking about the moment. So yeah, maybe that speaks more to the negative Yelp review.
Look, I'll say 4.5 stars for the actual day of. 2 stars for telling the story for 3 days straight. That's where you failed. Yeah.
Now I've told the story for a week straight. So yeah. Well, buddy, thank you for joining us as always. We'll be back right after the break with Eater's Mona Holmes. Dear listener, my wife recently decided to start eating meat after more than 15 years of being a vegetarian, and being the conscientious consumer that I am, I've been looking for ways to make our household's meat consumption as high quality and sustainable as possible. That's why I'm absolutely thrilled to have found First Light Farms, a small collective of passionate family farmers in New Zealand who are quietly changing the world. Not only are they producing the most tender, rich, and succulent Wagyu beef money can buy, but you can rest assured that First Light's cattle were raised as nature intended, living it up on lush pasture, eating a 100% grass diet with absolutely no grains, no animal byproducts, and no feedlots. The result is the best tasting meat in the game, full of natural marbling and packed with omega-3 fats. If you've ever enjoyed a meal at Ma2 in Beverly Hills, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Ma2 famously sources all of its meat directly from First Light, and the good news is that you too can have First Light Farms meats delivered straight to your door. All you have to do is visit www.firstlight.farm, where you can buy their meats and also sign up for their members-only steak club. Members of the steak club enjoy tons of benefits, including monthly shipments of steaks, access to the highest marble score meats, and, this is my favorite part, access to First Light's full library of proprietary recipes and techniques. Also, you can cook the perfect steak within the comfort of your own home. Buying good steak isn't easy and it isn't cheap. First Light delivers the highest quality at an incredible deal, and now that I've seen the light, I'm never going back. Visit www.firstlight.farm to learn more and use the code LAFood10 for a 10% discount on your first order. Dear listener, I am so excited because joining us today on the LA Food Podcast, she's a James Beard Award nominated writer whose work you can find at Eater LA and KCRW. It's the one and only Mona Holmes. Mona, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Luca. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I feel like it's really rare that people ask me that on this podcast. So, 1 point to you.
I genuinely I care. Like, really, how you doing?
Yeah, no. What part of town are you calling us from, Mona?
I live in Northeast Los Angeles, so I'm right in like where Eagle Rock and Glassell Park meet. And I've been here for a decade, but this is my home. Like, I grew up in Altadena. So this general area that I like to refer to, less of Northeast LA and more like the Verdugos, if that makes any sense, that encompasses Glendale, Pasadena, Altadena, Highland Park, Eagle Rock, like La Cañada. All of those to me are Verdugos. Like,
yeah, you're speaking my language. We live in a Verdugo as well, you might say. So we're representing this part of Los Angeles as well on the LA Food Podcast. And actually, I'm noticing that a lot of people seem to live in this neck of the woods, especially in the food world, especially food writers. I feel like, what is it about Northeast Los Angeles that attracts so many?
They know what's up. We know what's up. That's essentially it. Here's what I love about it. As someone, I'm very much a city dweller, but I don't want to be in like an area that's too crazy. I have a dog, I have a husband, I have a cat. Like, I like getting up and away from, the busyness of the city while having the accessibility to it. Mm-hmm. So that's why I like it. And also too, it's still hopefully for a lot longer, like a little less, it just untouched as far as, change. Like, a lot of things are the same as when I even remember them from childhood when we would come into Eagle Rock, but I feel like it's still holding on to its charm and its magic, and I hope it stays that way for a while.
Yeah, that's crazy. We have family that live over near the Sunset Strip, and even just going over there to visit them and coming back, it feels like you've just been to Times Square or something. It's like it's hell on my nervous system. And I've been watching Curb Your Enthusiasm for the first time. Mm-hmm. And that's like Los Angeles in the 2000s, right? Mm-hmm. And it's mostly on the west side in that part of town. And everything looks so different. Like, talk about, a part of town that did not remain untouched.
Mm-mm. No, every time I'm driving around, and also it takes me forever to drive around town because, the second that I see something new, it's like whiplash and I'm like, ooh, what's going in there? And there's like a notice of something new happening. And then I'll look up and go, where the hell did that come from? Like a new apartment building or just a new building in general.
Yeah.
To witness the shifts in and around Los Angeles over the last few decades has been a trip.
Well, we're going to get there in just a moment. But one question I always like to kick off with when we're talking to food writers is, what did you have for lunch today?
Yeah. Okay. So I just came from lunch with someone who has turned out to be a friend, even though I wrote a story about him, Barney Santos with Boulevard Market. We went to a really wonderful spot called Vaca Brunch. And it is out, like way out, like we're very close to where the 605 and the 10 meet, way out from me. And this place, they do this Mexican brunch on steroids with like really good, like amazing coffee drinks. You can get, licuados or aguas frescas, like it's got everything. And then like tres leches pancakes. And I mean, it was, so we had those actual pancakes. Mm-hmm. And then we also had some eggs Benedict that had, just some really delicious thick cut bacon and, cafe de olla coffee and, and just grub. I mean, it was a lot. I couldn't finish it, but it's truly a special place. And, Mexican brunch, like it's it's all you really need.
Yeah, it hits like nothing else sometimes. Have you been to Glorious Cuisine over in Highland Park?
Have I been to Glorious Cuisine in Highland Park? It's such a good spot. And it's been a minute since I've been, but yeah, everyone's got their little favorite corner of Mexican food in Los Angeles, or like a collection of places that you go to regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And Glorious is so good. I actually had one that closed in Silver Lake called Las Glorias on Silver Lake Boulevard that used to be really great. I wish I knew what happened to it. I mean, and it depends, because like I have one good friend of mine who says he doesn't like Mexican food, and it truly drives me insane when he says I'm not into it. And I said, yeah, but which kind? Like there's
Yeah.
like we can go and get some Mariscos if you want. We can also go in, this woman who has like, a breakfast in her backyard. We can go and get like some high end shit. Like,
Yeah.
which one?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, I feel very blessed to live in Los Angeles for that reason.
A blanket statement like I do not like Mexican food has to be one of the most, let's just say, brave things you can utter in Los Angeles, right? Just because there's so many different things. It's like braised meats, tlayudas, burritos. Like it's really such a blanket statement. I feel like you probably hear that a lot in other parts of the country, but far less in Los Angeles.
Let me take a breath. Because it can be infuriating sometimes with, and I find that California experiences this a lot with people making a blanket statement about what it is, and what they think it is and what it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that a good percentage of people want to try and understand it from their lens of, whether they're Southerners or East Coasters or Midwesterners and the like. And everyone who's lived here, you're a native, right?
Oh, that is so kind of you to think that. But no, I'm actually a transplant. But I have been here for 15 years, so I do very much consider myself an Angelino at this point.
You 100% are. I hereby declare it.
Thank you.
As the one who grew up here, but technically, I'm a transplant too. But I came here when I was 2. But it seems like everyone wants to put their very specific regional lens on Los Angeles and say, how come you guys don't have places to get a bacon, egg, and cheese?
Mm-hmm.
How come you guys don't have Southern barbecue? How come you guys don't have X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, okay, we might not have that. And I'm okay with not having a bacon, egg, and cheese in Los Angeles, but do you want to go get a Taiwanese breakfast with me right now?
Yeah.
Like, you can say whatever you want about LA. I think that everyone, now that you are an official, like, Angelino, like, do you really care about what other states and cities say about LA? I don't.
I don't. Okay, I actually will correct my own record. It really annoys me, actually, when people who, I think, like, paradoxically, it might annoy me more when people from Los Angeles and who live in Los Angeles actually speak negatively of Los Angeles's food.
Mm.
And I've noticed this happen. Well, this has happened recently. There's been some loudmouths in the food world who have sort of like lamented the fact that like Los Angeles doesn't have enough exciting restaurant openings, and New York kind of like kills us on fine dining and stuff like that, and have just like been really negative about the Los Angeles food scene. That annoys me more than people from like, New York or Miami being like, oh, there's no good food in Los Angeles, because they don't know. They don't have the opportunity to be here, right?
Yeah.
When the call's coming from inside the house, that's when I really get up in arms. You know what I mean?
Where's the loyalty? All I have to say for anyone, whether they are locals or from somewhere else, there are 7,000 restaurants in LA County, more than any other county in the country. And it's extremely complex here, even more complicated to operate a restaurant here. And those that succeed are so skilled in a system that's not really designed for their success.
Mm-hmm.
Say whatever you want about LA. Just make sure that you get it right. Like, I just come correct.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you can try all the trendy places, but we all know that all the trendy places do not make a restaurant scene.
Yeah.
Nor would I ever assume to know everything. Even though this is what I get paid to do, my actual job, I would never make assumptions about every corner of Los Angeles and say like, I'm not really that big on food. I wouldn't do that in any city for that matter, because it's like, you can't really, to understand LA culture takes a bit of breaking down of your barriers, and just to just be like, oh, okay, yeah, you know what, this city actually has something different that other places don't, as every place does.
Mm-hmm.
But to just be at one with it, you know, like when I'm driving in the early in the morning, because I wake up way too early.
By choice?
Yeah, that's just how I'm wired.
Yeah.
But I'll look at the mountains driving along, and I'm like, wow, that's so pretty. And I've been living here for a very long time, and it's still I'm awestruck by it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's truly some of the most beautiful landscape that I think I could be a part of. And so the second that I see it, I'm like, damn, that's so beautiful. Or like, wow, this $1.50 taco is something else.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, you know what? I'm stuck in traffic, but this person is listening to a song that just came out by Kendrick Lamar and bumping it on a really great sound system. And then another car pulls up on my other side and they're playing the same song I'm talking about, Not Like Us. And the day it comes out, and I'm just like, yeah, this is my town. And when you
Yeah.
start accepting it for what it is, it winds up being, you know, unique to you.
Yeah.
And I wish more people understood that. But you know, if they don't, they can go back to wherever it is that they came from and appreciate their own thing.
I didn't realize Drake would be catching strays on this podcast. You know what's funny is like there's something about food that I think everybody like turns into a judge or a critic when they're having it. They're like,
They do.
this is good or this is bad. And they feel like they have to like give their opinion. Why do you think food elicits that from people?
I don't know. I mean, I think that I feel like it's less about food and more about the rise of third-party apps like Yelp or even Google reviews, where their opinion is solicited, and then you add on social media and people just getting into the mic and giving their opinion. I feel like it more represents people's need to feel heard and seen than anything else. But I do wish that I'm okay with these opinions. I actually want to hear what people think about a certain place or not. I just wish that they gave it a little bit more nuance. Like, you know, when someone says, "Oh, it was a 10 out of 10," and I'm like, "Great. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
What's your 10?" Like it's probably not going to be mine. Like I'm not going to give a 10 out of 10 to boba because I'm sorry and I'm probably going to piss some people off, but I'm not a fan. But that doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah.
It just means that it's not for me. So I'm just not going to rank boba, you know? But if someone says, "Oh, this boba was a 10 because they added extra cinnamon and there was just the right amount of tapioca balls and there was just enough of a tea to milk ratio that made it not too sweet," or however they like it, however they prefer it and why they prefer it that way, I think it would be a much better ecosystem of people offering their opinion. Because, like, I'm sorry, whenever someone says a 10 out of 10, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that means. I'm sorry. I don't know how you feel about swearing. I swear sometimes.
I feel great about swearing. Swearing is actually
Okay, great.
This is one of those podcasts where swearing is encouraged.
Oh, yes. Okay. That works for me. But you know what I mean? Like, I just, like, I am interested in these opinions. I want to know why, you know, this restaurant is getting great reviews from influencers and why it's not necessarily resonating with the greater community at large. Because when these folks will come along and say, "Oh, you have to get X, Y, and Z," and I'm like, you know, I didn't have great experience with that. And it makes me question whether or not we have similar taste buds, which is completely fine. But, like, you know, they got to give me some more context, some more nuance, some more information to make sure I understand what that 10 or 5 out of 10 means. Cause I really don't.
No, it is. There is like a shorthand that has developed, especially on the internet, where like you're supposed to know what like this influencer's 9.2 is based on like how far the eyes roll back in the head. It's just inhuman. Like that's not something we should need to know, right? Like we should be able to hear somebody actually be able to express why something is good. But I feel like that's, you know, people also tend to conflate those kinds of reviews with the kind of work that you do as a journalist and sort of equate the two, right? They're like, and we've talked a little bit on the podcast before, but you know, you even get situations where influencers are credited with maybe discovering a place that journalists have actually been reporting on for a long time.
Mhm.
How do you think about sort of that line between journalist and influencer in 2024?
I actually think that they're an essential part of the food community. Like I truly love what a lot of them do. Again, like with the 26,000 restaurants in LA County, like there's no way that our team of 4 at Eater LA can get out to see all of them.
Yeah.
And when someone like Mr. Biggs comes on and tells me about this amazing spot in the Inland Empire, an area that I shamefully don't get to enough, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. He's teaching me something new. And I very much appreciate it. And, I consider them an essential part of the food space. My biggest complaint is when the money starts to get a little bit funny, because I don't necessarily want to take advice from someone who was paid $500 or $1,000 to dine there, because their opinion about that place is automatically skewed.
Yeah.
Y'all go get that bag. Like everyone's got to make a living. I get it. But I do wish that they would disclose the fact that they had been paid a fee to eat there, so that people could make up their own minds of whether or not to trust this source. We take great pains to make sure that we don't do that. That doesn't always happen. I'll just be real about that. But we try. And also too is, we don't necessarily give reviews. Like we are just beat reporters and editors that are interested in telling a story about a food space. And the only time that we really get to tell our opinions is our weekly recommendation.
Yeah. Or highly opinionated.
Which can be really fun. But we get a lot of comments about that, but people will be,
I bet.
right. But it's, I welcome them. I love that they show me new things. I love that they are out and about in this town. And I do feel like if we could be a little bit more clear about whether or not they were paid, which by the way, they're required by law to do, we would be in a better space to determine who are the best influencers and who aren't.
I mean, it's a really interesting question. And I think, or a really interesting point you raise. And I think that there's been similar sort of like questions raised about journalists too, though, right? Like meaning about like it's not so much getting paid, but sometimes the currency with journalists is relationships, right? Like
Yes.
I feel like one of the most valuable assets that reporters have a lot of time is their relationships, because that's who's going to come to you with a story. That's how you get scoops oftentimes. That's, how you get a lot of access in times. And I've heard it, the accusation made that sometimes reporters play favorites or play nice in order to retain that access.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance that as a reporter, especially not as a reviewer, but as a reporter, in terms of cultivating sources while also not trying to play favorites?
As a reporter, I don't find it too difficult, especially after writing a story about a specific space. Oftentimes I'd say that the majority of time that relationship, I wouldn't say that it ends, but we've done our story and we've moved on already, and the likelihood of that person opening up another restaurant is very small, because the success rate of restaurants, it's very small.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a human being, to remain unbiased is impossible. And I wouldn't say that I play favorites. It's just that I'm inspired by certain people who are able to communicate their vision in a way that makes me excited to be there. And it makes me excited to relay that story to our readers and beyond. And the best thing that I can do is keep that relationship professional. That doesn't always work. Hell, I just had lunch with Barney Santos, whose company I genuinely enjoy. Like we just click. Like he's my bro. I've always said this, to my other colleagues. Like I'll never really know who my friends are in this industry until I leave this job, because the other balance that we need to maintain is, is this person trying to create access with me to get a story written about them? Are their intentions real? do they genuinely like me? Because I can be like super annoying and also incredibly difficult to pin down. And that just has to do with the volume of work that we have. And so, like I think a lot of other people would have just like lost patience with me because it's just like, our inboxes are insane and the workload that we have is insane. But I truly won't know who our friends, restaurant owners, chefs, publicists,
Oh,
you name it. Like I truly won't know until I'm done with this gig, which will happen eventually. but yeah, it's hard when people want something from you, and I am very well aware of that. But in the meantime, I genuinely enjoy so many people's company, and we wind up sharing things about each other. And but I do come back down to earth and say, okay, I need to write the best story that I can and get the best information that I can. Is this person giving me access to it? Are they trying to help me shape the story, which is a big fat no-no in journalism?
mm-hmm.
Am I maintaining integrity to my own voice? Like those are the things that I have to remember and be aware of anytime that I'm interacting with someone. And so it can be very tricky, but I think that the majority of us do the best job that we can as reporters and as human beings to at least try and maintain some affectionate and warm contact about these restaurants. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I do care a
Yeah.
lot, almost to a fault. I think we all do. At least I can only speak for my team. I feel how much they care. I think that's the best that you can do. I do know some reporters that keep it nothing but professional. They don't hang out with their subjects. They do not they don't even give out their phone number. Like they're hardcore this is just a professional thing. And I would love to get there, but I don't think I'm wired that way.
Yeah, no, I get that. It is really hard. I'm not even a real journalist. I don't consider myself a journalist, but I am getting in the situations that you are describing where like people are being nice to you and you don't know exactly why. And then you get in other situations where you really start to think about the sort of like impact that the things you say have sometimes. Like, for example, I recently went to a spot, I'm not going to name them,
Mm-hmm.
but I had a wonderful meal and I reached out to the chef and was like, "Hey, I really enjoyed my meal. I would love to talk to you on the podcast." And he was somewhat cold with me. And I was like racking my brain. Why was he cold with me? And then I looked back at our episodes and we did a whole episode where we talked about something that his restaurant group had been under scrutiny for. And I just wondered to myself, like, is that why? I'll never know the answer to that, right? But you start to think about like the impact that your words have, and it can take a bit of a personal toll on you sometimes, thinking like, what's real, what's not? Am I overthinking this?
Mm, you said a mouthful. And, I mean, I'm also at the age too where I've finally come to accept the fact that people are just insulated in their own worlds and only acting out of that reality, and that it typically has very little to nothing to do with me.
Mhm.
While it can be challenging to maintain those boundaries and be like, oh, I mean, and for me, like the biggest fear is getting something wrong. Like that, I think that's every journalist's biggest fear.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm like, I just shut up and let them talk. And, if they're upset and it's something that I did or I can address, I'll address it. But otherwise, I don't have the time and the bandwidth to look after anyone other than my family. So
Well, you mentioned one of the things you mentioned is that, one of the things that makes your life quote unquote difficult is that you care. Let's talk about why you care. What was your entry point to food?
well, since college, I've been working in and out of restaurants for a long time because it was always a much more flexible way to earn money. While, from God, not even college, like from high school and beyond. So I actually know quite a bit about restaurant operations or at least the front of the house, and how the minor miracle that it takes for four people sitting at a table to get their food at the
Hmm.
exact same time and hot, delivered hot.
Yeah.
It takes a wild amount of skill, and I wish more people understood that. So because I've watched multiple restaurants do that dance on a nightly basis, some of them for many years, and the physical and emotional toll that it takes on staff, restaurant owners, chefs, vendors, everyone who makes this ecosystem of a restaurant go. And so I know all that it takes and then some to make this happen. And so when folks can, think that they have some food that they want to get out into the world, like, more power to them.
Mm-hmm.
More success, more, like anything I can do to help get the word out, about, your dream, that might really resonate with someone who just wants to go out and get something to eat. You go and do that. And I care that they succeed because, restaurants to me are pillars of the community. Everyone's got to eat.
Yeah.
And everyone has some memory of some kind, like eating out, whether it's all casual or not. And also too, it's the one subject that people talk about all the time.
True.
Like, hey, what'd you eat? What'd you get there? And so, knowing that, that people come in with expectation, they're doing their best. And I'm like, man, you guys are just killing it right now. Or like, let me write the story about you so maybe I can get more people in there. I feel like it's a service to, LA's diners and those who are operating these spaces. And so I want them to succeed because they make up the city that I care about. So, when the other day, because I'm off for a week this week because I desperately needed a break.
Oh my God. Thank you for doing this on your week off.
Oh, honey, don't you worry. My week starts in about 2 hours. But I said to my colleague, I said, hey, Kathy, let's write some really great words today. And she was like, yeah, let's do that. Like, we are just trying to convey something delicious to our readers. We're trying to make them hungry.
Mm-hmm.
That to do that, you have to care.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
So, we're sensitive souls.
It comes across.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Even though like in my Instagram DMs, like I sometimes get folks telling me that I'm like the worst, like all the time. And I'm like, yes, honey, you heard me, Luca.
I'm just surprised because I feel like, I'm not surprised, I should say. People have so many opinions when it comes to food. Like, yeah, you should see some of my comment sections. It's literally like being on like 4chan or something. It's disgusting. It just surprises me because you're not oftentimes not reviewing stuff. You are reporting on stuff. So to get so worked up about, a story sometimes feels a little much, guys. I think we can all chill out at home. Okay.
As long as they click.
That's what I say.
Say whatever you want, as long as they click.
Yeah, just thank you for the engagement. Thank you for the engagement. So, as a sensitive soul and as someone who cares so much, right? And I share that. What has it been like for you over the last, restaurants have been having a hard time probably since the pandemic, but especially in the last couple of years, it feels like every day, every week, there's a whole list of restaurant closures. I'm pretty sure you guys keep a running tab of restaurant closures on Eater as well. What's that been like for you to see all this going on?
Frustrating. I have this dream where I am sitting in Mayor Karen Bass's office and Gavin Newsom decides to walk in, our governor. And, and I'd be like, hey, Karen, Gavin, have a seat. You guys have to do something like stat. And mostly from like the permit, governmental side, just to make it easier for restaurants to operate in not just here, but all of California. The hoops that restaurants have to jump through just to maintain operations within the parameters of what the city, county, and state requires is a lot. I get so frustrated when I think about the length of time that a lot of places have to stay open. Not open and just be dealing with inspections from, whatever department has to come in before they actually open. And that's money that they're not bringing in because there's no revenue coming in because they can't operate, so there's that element. And then there's the element of restaurants that can't find the same amount of qualified people to come in and work behind the scenes. It's very different. A lot of people left the industry during COVID. I don't blame them because they were waiting for things to come back. It took a while and they had rent and mortgages to pay. And so they just left. So we are seeing, we've started tracking closings, unfortunately, and it's really frustrating because the number of closings that we're seeing are more than the openings that we're seeing right now. And with that, what takes the place of those businesses, those restaurants? Are they going to be mom and pops? Are they going to be corporate? Are they going to be something that the community surrounding that restaurant needs and wants? I'm very, very frustrated with seeing so many of them put their life savings into a return that's just not going to be there, or during the worst time ever for restaurants in early COVID and beyond, just see a lack of responsiveness from government officials, that are like, just kind of shrugging their shoulders instead of actually reaching out to lend a hand. I feel like restaurants were they most certainly were left behind. So,
Yeah.
so we're seeing people who are at the end of their rope, people who have been in this business for decades, who are like, you know what, I'm going to take a private chef job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a corporate job because at the very least, I'll have 2 weeks of vacation and sick leave and not have to worry about, any of those things. I do worry a lot because we're just not seeing the amount of openings, and I don't want it to be all doom and gloom. I want people to feel optimistic because there still are some folks doing amazing things. Like I just got off the phone this week with this husband and wife team. Well, they're about to be married, and they just opened up 3 restaurants all within like 6 months of each other. And I'm like, how did you do that? And they're like, well, it just kind of happened that way. And they're excited and they're having a ball. And I'm like, okay, so just as much as hard as it is, as difficult as it's been, you have folks like them.
Yeah.
You have, really great, well-known chefs or restaurant owners like moving on to different projects. So while it feels like doom and gloom, and it certainly is more difficult than it ever has been, there are people who are dedicated to making sure that Angelinos are fed.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that keeps me going. And whatever part I can play to get the word out about it, then I'll do that.
Yeah. Okay. Not to double click on the doom and gloom, but one thing I have noticed over the past, maybe like 5 years is that a lot of neighborhoods have started to just look the same, meaning like you go to Highland Park, you go to Silver Lake, you go to Larchmont, wherever you are, and it's like you have your ice cream store, like your Jenny's or your Van Leeuwen's or your Salt and Straw.
Yeah.
You have your fancy hand cream store, the Lalabos or the, Aesop or whatever. You have your fancy coffee shop, an Alfred or a Go Get 'em Tiger. Not all of these are exactly the same in terms of level of corporate standing, but it's well-recognized brands. It's kind of like feeling a little cookie cutter everywhere you go. Do you know what I'm talking about? And do you feel like,
Yes.
do you think that is a product of sort of how difficult it is for the mom and pop, the new ideas to sort of flourish?
I do. I also think that a huge problem are well, not a problem, but part of what's happening are landlords. I'm stunned when I hear, sure, sometimes leases are up and they don't decide not to renew. That happens. But, I've lost track of how many people were approached by their landlord who decided to exponentially increase rent on a place for no good reason other than like, my costs have gone up. So you're going to pay like 20% more, which for a business that has very small margins and low profit, that will and has killed businesses. And then, so that restaurant leaves, right? So who comes back in? So that landlord needs to go out and search for, probably through a broker, a new concept or chef who's already or business that's already established themselves, that already has social media profiles, that already is connected with an audience, is going to come in there, and then they need a year to build it out. How are they expecting that to work? Like this is a new time. And even then, like a successful name is not a guarantee of success.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do wonder what they're thinking. Like, they're like, yeah, we'll just raise the prices and it'll be okay. No, you need to get someone in there that's going to stay for a long time. You don't want turnover in a space. So, I've been trying for years to get a landlord to go on record with me. They understandably. They know the questions that I'm going to ask, which is why they always say no. I think that they operate and live in a different world. And of course, there are very good ones out there, but there's ones, especially corporate ones. And let me give you an example of one who said to a restaurant that's now closed, and this is in 2020 when they said, your rent is late, and she's like, yeah, so it's May 2020, and I've only done takeout in a sit down restaurant, and I'm doing my best. And she said, can you give me a break on rent for a little bit, just so that I'm not constantly playing catch up? She was only earning like 30% of what she usually does for full service.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, if we give you a bargain, a break, then you will have no incentive to work harder. And this is a corporate entity. Yeah. And she was just like, well, I don't think that's true. And they said, well, that's just kind of where we stand. And then she left. And there've been like 3 things in that space since. And, but if that's their mentality, especially the big corporations that are managing these companies, I can't imagine what it's like for smaller operators who are just trying to make payroll and rent. So I do wish I wish for a lot of things, but it's just, I'm wondering what is going to be happening. I'm not trying not to be all doom and gloom, but there's a lot of factors. There's rising costs. There's landlords. There's labor, labor that's getting paid more. There's so many factors that are making it that much more difficult. But restaurants and restaurant owners and chefs are used to pivoting. They're used to adjusting. And so I know that they're some of the most inventive people out there. So I have so much faith in them being able to figure out how to make some of these things work.
Well, it kind of reminds me of what we saw around the last Great Recession, 2008, 2009, sort of in the wake of that, you saw some really creative initiatives. Like, I'm not sure if it's directly related to the recession, but I suspect it had some impact, the rise of the food truck and Kogi and that whole movement, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like you are seeing a lot of pop-ups in Los Angeles today, more than I can ever remember before, at least in one time. And I think that there's some really interesting ideas being sparked through that because there's lower barriers to entry, it's lower risk, so they can take more risks with their cooking. Is there anything along those lines that's exciting you or has caught your attention?
I mean, I love a good pop-up. I just do. I love the energy around them because, and I think that this is a testament to the people who live here. They are so curious to try something new, something that hasn't been overly reported on. When a restaurant owner or a pop-up suddenly reaches out to us and say, hey, we're getting started and we haven't written about it, and there's already a line, I'm like, damn, what? These folks are intrepid, out there on the street and talking to each other and following social media. And it's because they want to experience something and they certainly want to tell their people about it. And I personally love that. And the excitement around it is really nice to see. And especially when we're all standing in a circle or sitting on makeshift benches and take a bite of something really delicious. And we're like, damn, that's good. And we do it together. And one of the complaints from transplants and especially New Yorkers, they're like, I can't, everyone's driving, can't see anyone. And I'm like, well, we're at this pop-up and everything's delicious and we're all hanging out almost as if we had walked there. I mean, we all drove there or took some form of transportation, but it is kind of our moment to savor that. And have I tried any recently that I'm like really digging? As far as pop-ups go, I can't think of anything on the spot, but I'm about to go to this random kind of like food gathering tonight. And even then, I'm just excited to try something new and fresh. But I think it's more the experience for me too. Especially when someone's got a little tiny radio speaker and, or rather Bluetooth speaker radio. What am I saying? The radio anymore. And they're just hawking their wares and greeting people. That experience is what I think most are craving because we were cooped up for so long.
Yeah,
It's, of course we're hungry, but that's also part of what we're looking for is some kind of connection.
that's true.
And pop-ups are certainly an intimate way to do it.
Yeah.
And I love that they are around and thriving, and some of them actually, earning a decent living at it. I truly hope that they do.
Certainly a very excited, like it's a great place for creativity. And I think you're on something there, especially with people just want to be together at some point. I think people even just want to like wait in line together. I was at something about her sandwiches yesterday, waiting in line.
Oh, you went.
Well, I failed. I was not able to get a sandwich, but luckily your colleague Rebecca Rowland and
Yes.
Karen Palmer, your former colleague, did a great job
Yep.
reporting on it. So I didn't need to do it in order to add to the conversation. But talk about people just being together and chit chatting in line, and that is something that's really cool about Los Angeles too. Is like, yes, you're right. People really want to be at the new thing. I think sometimes people look at that a little cynically and they're like, oh, it's just LA. It's hype. They want to be there so that they can take the Instagram picture and stuff like that. Maybe there's a little bit of truth to that. But I also think that you're right. There is something about Angelinos. We're just curious eaters.
Yeah, that is an absolute source of pride for me. Because like they'll be up in here and be like, "Ooh, what's that?" and be pointing at different things and wanting to know more. And this is the LA that I know, of people being like, sometimes it's clout chasing, sometimes it's just like, ooh, what's that? Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Yeah, okay, awesome. Let me get a couple of to go. And that's that. That's to me, that's something that if you've lived here long enough, you'll witness pretty regularly.
What were your favorite spots to eat growing up in Altadena?
Oh wow. There used to be this place called Joe's Pizza. And it turned into, I'm trying to remember the current name, on Lake Avenue, right across the street from our local grocery store, which used to be called Market Basket of all things. I think it's a Ralph's now. But it's where my dad loved to go because he was born and raised in New York until he moved us out here when we were two. And they made New York style pizza. And, and that was that. But when I got older, and started to get my own taste and flavors. My friends and I, especially my best friend in high school, who I'm still in touch with, are Islands girls. Islands, honey, was the joint where we would go, and I would get the teriyaki burger with refillable root beers and fries, and just like go to town and talk about our futures and our lives. And when we were finally out of Altadena, that would be the place. Or, and truth be told, Luca, Jack in the Box.
Yeah.
When it was still a fairly local, not huge chain, we used to grab up some Jack in the Box, or as we used to lovingly call it, Yak in the Bag. Because it was cheap, and we would just, it was our place. And,
Yeah.
there are tons of other places that are like long, long gone, including like a smorgasbord called Smorgies that was, I think it's where the Target in Pasadena is now, if my memory serves me. But, where you would just go, and it was very much like a Las Vegas buffet.
Yeah.
And you got everything that you could ever want. And it was all a growing girl needed.
Yeah. What's funny? You mentioned Jack in the Box. I feel like that is such a litmus test for whether somebody is from Los Angeles or not.
Oh, 100%.
Their like gut reaction to Jack in the Box is like a telltale sign of like whether they grew up here or not.
I had a conversation with Gustavo Ariano about it, and we were like, Jack in the Box taco? Delicious.
Gustavo couldn't stop talking about Carl's Jr. when he was on this podcast. So that was another thing that he remembered fondly before it became what it is today.
Yeah, it's true. I don't even know if it's good anymore. I haven't had one of those in ages, but it will forever have a warm place in my heart.
I think you're probably good on waiting to go there again, from my humble opinion. Now, one thing that listeners might not realize about you is that you actually worked in music before you moved over to food.
How do you know all this? How'd you know all this, Luca?
I do my research. I wasn't so good about keeping the podcast chronological today, but guess what? We had such a great conversation, it doesn't matter. But I did wanna, like, just kinda ask you about that because
Mhm.
the jump from music to food seems kinda like, it's definitely like a shift. How did you move from music to food, and how did you find the 2 similar versus different?
For years, I worked in media. I worked at KPCC for a spell, doing as a production assistant when I was first getting my start. Worked at NPR at headquarters in Washington, D.C. for a while, and was very much into music culture that was a little bit on the underground, actually, very much in the underground. It was all about house music and dance music culture. Back then,
Hmm.
we called it electronica. And I only got into it because I wanted, back when people still bought CDs, was free CDs. I wanted free music. And so I just started to write. I knew that I wanted to write outside of my corporate gigs. Um, but I also wanted to immerse myself in the music culture that much more. And so when I was, God, if I could even remember how we met, but three women who I wound up meeting, I'm sorry, two women who I wound up meeting. One of them was based in London, the other one was in Arizona, and we started our own digital publication called SheJ.
Wow.
Because the one thing that we knew and understood was that, women were very much left out of the focus in dance music. Anytime I would go to a club, because I still love to dance, but back then I went to dance all the time, and there were always male DJs. And so we decided to shine a spotlight on them. And it was very much like a social media platform before there was social media. This is before Facebook, this is before Twitter, Instagram, and the like. There was still MySpace, if you can believe that.
So this is like really early aughts?
Yeah, we started in 2002,
Hmm.
2003. And, there you would go into a page, we would write stories about these artists. They could go in and create a profile for themselves, like an Australian DJ that spins techno and breakbeats, who's based out of Sydney, or a traditional house music head who is a well-respected DJ from Chicago. Like that was our thing, and we tried to promote them as much as possible, and it was amazing and a ton of work. But I would still be on the fringe of food because at that time, when I was really trying to make it go, I was waiting
Hmm.
tables so that I could earn enough money to keep this thing going until we started actually making money at it. But by that time, I was already so burnt out and still wanting to exist in the food
Yeah.
space. And started writing and freelancing from there, and even started a food blog that was, also a lot of work, but definitely not what I wanted to do. I just felt like there were more stories that I could tell with Los Angeles in the
Mhm.
background, that weren't being represented very well. And when the opening came up at Eater, uh, I mean, I know that there were hundreds of applicants. I have no idea why Matt Kang and Farley Elliott picked me.
I have a good sense of why, just based on talking to you. But, is it 20 this was 2017, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And so they gave me my break that I needed, and that was that.
Yeah, and the rest is history. Yeah, I'm not trying to end this on a dour note at all, but I just, you were in food media, and food media has been struggling recently. Like, we've seen obviously everything that's happened at LA Taco, LA Times, obviously earlier this year. A lot of layoffs there, including within the food department. It must be kind of like a scary time at times to be in media and food media.
It is.
How do you navigate that, and sort of what do you think the best case is for why people should, like, subscribe to food publications and support them in any way they can? Why funders should be looking at food media as also something that is valuable?
Well, that's a lot of questions, honey.
It is.
But I got you. I got you. So to start with, yeah, it's been hard. It's not just LA Taco, LA Times, LA. It's like when I started in 2017, LA Weekly got bought by
Mm.
those owners. I'll just refer to them as that. Let's see, Village Voice, like all these publications were dying. LAist like disappeared for a bit until it was revamped. Like it was an interesting time for me to be in LA media because everything just kind of imploded. During my tenure at Eater, Gustavo Arellano moved into the LA Times, because he was at
OC Weekly.
was he at OC Weekly? Yes. There was just a lot of shuffling, and and I don't even necessarily look at food writers as food writers. We are culture writers. We cover everything that around the food, which is absolutely culture and people and locales. It's not just LA media. I have friends at Bon App who were laid off. Sorry, Bon Appetit for your listeners. Get too industry like.
The listeners probably know what that is. Yeah,
I know. Sometimes I get too jargony in my own world. And other people who have lost their jobs at the kitchen, or and it's not just our industry. I know that it's a ton of industries right now, and so yes, it is discouraging to see not just people, but even people that I know lose their livelihood and not have a lot of other prospects. Because these spaces keep shrinking. But if there's anything that I can encourage people to do, is to keep clicking on the links that we share with you, because that's what pays our salaries. You might not like it, but please do it anyway, because if we go away, who is going to be covering this space? I am extremely proud of the Eater universe. There are, I don't know if anyone doesn't know that we have sites in New Orleans, Miami, Chicago, New York, the Carolinas, Texas, San Diego, San Francisco. We get around, and this is all we do. And so if you guys can click on that stuff, that would be like the biggest help, possible. And if you share it, even better. For us to cover this, like I look at it as, what are people going to be looking at in 20, 30, 50, 100 years? They're going to be looking at the writing that we produce, the stories that we tell, that give them a snapshot of what life was like in May 2024 and what people were eating, and and who was preparing the food, and how are people gathering over these meals. Like I look at it, that is the thing that keeps me going. I look at it as an anthropological type of activity, like, hey, I hope that people are talking about this in this time. I really do, because it's important work and crucial to helping us understand ourselves and the things that we do and how we do them. So that, and also too, if I can help a restaurant stay open, a restaurant that not only feeds people, but creates jobs and tax revenue, I'll do it. I'll do whatever I can.
Yeah. No, it's a lot, but you know what? There's a balance too, right? Because, one thing that people sometimes struggle with is this notion that, your journalists are not PR though. So like there's you can't guarantee the expected return. So, but you do your best. And I have to say, you do a damn good job. And last question I wanted to have for you, I usually ask the question of, what are you most proud of, as the ending question on the podcast. But I wanted to zero in on something specific with you, Mona, because we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. But in 2022, you were nominated for James Beard Award, and it was for your coverage of Los Angeles. And in a very special way, it was the Jonathan Gold Local Voice Award, right? And I can only imagine what that meant, but I wanted to ask you, what was that like to be nominated for that award, having gone through everything you've gone through in your career?
It was excellent. I am very used to establishment media not really paying attention to the rest of the West Coast. And it's not just food media, it's all media. And, this is something that I've been witnessing since I was 7 years old, or not even just media, but just period. So since 7 years old, going into a Pasadena department store, and in the fall seeing winter coats in September, and and going like, Mom, why do they have winter coats out here? Coats that we will never wear because they're like, they're for the East Coast, because they never think about the West Coast, the state that's got the largest economy in the U.S., the majority of livestock produce, like all done here. industries that thrive here. It's amazing to me how we're still very much an outlier. And so I meet people who are very prominent in food media who have no idea what my name is or what I do. And I used to take that personally, but I'm like, no, it's just the East Coast lens, like what doesn't exist out of more specifically the Northeast doesn't really exist. So when the nomination came along, I was stunned because I didn't think that anything would come of it, because a lot of West Coast writers are not nominated very frequently. In fact, ever in the James Beard Awards. So when that came up, it was also 7 a.m. I'm awake, but I'm also bumping around the house drinking coffee and whatnot. And I got a text from Farley Elliott saying, "You just got nominated." And I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about, man? I'm like still like trying to wake up. And then I just like, it was just a barrage of text messages of people saying like, I really love those stories. Especially they really resonated with the growing up on Black barbecue, which is something that I am extremely proud of. That story, I had an idea of it, and of course it went completely the opposite way I started with, and the results were something my most deeply personal work, and clearly the piece that resonated with other people. Like when I was getting barbecue that year, later after I didn't win, I was getting some barbecue with my aunt, and we picked it up, and then I went back to the truck and I said, "Hey, I've been wanting to introduce myself. My name's Mona. I write for Eater LA." And they said, "Oh my God, you're the Black barbecue writer." And I'm like, "Yes." And the owner's wife from Ribtown, she said, "That is exactly my childhood. That is exactly how I grew up. Everything that you wrote reminded me of," she's like, "you completely sent me back decades to remember how wonderful that used to be and what it was like. And I love the illustrations." Like that story was for her. And I got into my car and I cried like a baby because that is who I wrote it for.
Yeah.
For people who grew up here, people who appreciate here, and to have her say that, I was just like, I was stunned because I put every inch of my soul into it, and it hit her in a way that touched her soul. So I feel honored that I got nominated, but when she said that to me and I got all those messages from people or phone calls from folks saying like, I loved this story, I'm like, okay, I did something here that they got, and feel very proud of that. And yeah, it was an excellent moment.
That is really cool. Well, folks at home, by all means, please go click the links that Mona posts, that all of her colleagues post. Even if you're going to say something that disagreeable, like you at least click on the link. Mona, you've been so generous with your time. Honestly, thank you so much for taking the time. I've really enjoyed our conversation. If folks are looking for you, where can they find you?
They can find me at Mona Eats on Instagram. Wait a minute. Is it? Wait, hold on. Is it Mona Eats LA? Wait, hold on. Like, this is terrible. I don't know my own profile. Yeah, it's Mona Eats. Yeah, I'm Mona Eats LA on Twitter, but I'm never on Twitter anymore. Yeah, it's Mona Eats on Instagram. I try to respond to most DMs, but just follow. I wish I posted more. Sometimes I don't have the bandwidth for that. But you can also go to la.eater.com and find the stories that we work on. We work on stories Monday through Friday and put our every ounce into it. And I used to be more of a creator on TikTok, but I don't have the time for all that. Who's got time? Ain't nobody got time. But Instagram is probably the best way to follow, and of course on Eater LA's site.
All right, everybody go follow Mona. Everybody click on her stories.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. And on KCRW. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, go there too. Yeah, I need to share more on that. Like, I create a lot. So, but yeah, I like talking about food.
Well, we will put it all in the show notes. So, listener, if you're looking for Mona, just head to the show notes and you'll find her there. Mona, maybe I'll run into you over here in the Verdugos at some point. But just wanted to say thanks again for making the time for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks very much to our guests, Mona Holmes and Father Saw, for joining us today. If you like what you heard today, dear listener, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a rating, review, subscribe. Seriously, all that stuff really helps us make our way up the charts on Spotify, Apple, and all other podcast platforms. I also want to remind you that you can subscribe to our free Substack newsletter, LA Food Stack, to find all of the articles we discuss on today's episode and much, much more. We'll be back next week with another epic episode, but if you're looking for me in the meantime, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and YouTube at the LA Countdown. That's TheLaCounTDOWN. You can also find me on Instagram at LA Food Pod. That's LAFOODPOD, and TheLACountdown.com, of course. See you next week.